chop it up, make everything look good. So, shalom, shalom. We are in the presence of greatness. Although we aren't on camera, myself, Netanyahu, we are here with the honorable, most definitely honorable, Cohane Michael Ben Levi. He's had many, many years in the Israelite community. He's one of the forefathers. Cohane, how you said from the 1960s?
I came into law in 1969.
Amazing.
So I've been in this way of life since 1969.
Okay. So what this is, the purpose of this is, we are going to go into a brief interview. We're also going to discuss the New Testament as well. And we are going to ask Netanyahu and myself, we're going to ask some questions. But first, as I was talking to Cohane before we actually started this, I would love for you to just introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are. And if you could just give them information about yourself, feel free to talk as long as you like.
I'd just like to first give all honor to the Holy One of Israel, to the power ancient forefathers for just life and for the portion of life that He's given to me. I was born in Harlem in 1948. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, in Bed-Stuy, Brownsville in particular. I went to Boys High School. I've seen a lot of things in terms of this country. So having been raised here, seeing what drugs did in my community, the gangs and the ignorance of our people, perpetrating violence on one another. So all the things that come up with Black Lives Matters is something that I experienced from my childhood. So it's just been a continuation of a situation that is perhaps only because we forsook the creator of heaven and earth. In 1969, when I began to understand what the reasons were behind our oppression and our situation in the Western Hemisphere and wanted to help our people, I realized it wasn't money that we needed. Even if we got reparations, it wouldn't help us because we'd probably go to the liquor store or buy things that were just unnecessary and uplifting us.
Okay.
When I found truth, the truth was the identity of our people, because I went to Boys High School, primary, junior high. I was a student. I had parents who I thank the Creator for, who gave me the principles of character and how to be a decent person, treat anyone. If I recall, my parents probably wanted me to be a good American, and they were sold on trying to have their children get an education. My father only had second grade education, so he grew up here in the South. My mother, Clio, Georgia, Augusta, Georgia. My family came from these parts. I experienced it as a young child, coming down here and seeing my grandfather get off a truck, get on a truck with a bucket, because that was the lunch basket in those days. They packed it in like a paint can. And basically I saw him get on the truck and a man much younger called him boy, and he probably didn't even have the heart to want to even look that young boy in the face, because that was the climate of the post-slavery period. They were doing crop shearing and going to someone's farm and working on the farm. So as a young boy witnessing that and seeing that relationship, and then later having my parents come to New York City, we lived in, when I was born, lived in what you call a train apartment, which ran straight through. And my family had the last room living with an aunt. And my mother and father slept on a cot. The three of us that were born, or four of us, had one bed, and we all slept in that together. And then finally, my parents perhaps got on welfare and were able to get accepted in the projects in Brooklyn, and I moved into the Howard Projects in Brooklyn, New York, where I grew up. We started out as little youth, playing marbles and tops and ring Levio, running games, and then it took a point where we got to be teenagers, 13, and these wonderful friends became Roman lords and jolly midgets and gangs that were killing each other. My parents wouldn't allow me to stay out in the streets because I had a curfew. So I had to be upstairs, so I was never involved in those types of things. And then I went to school, I played basketball, so a lot of people knew me from track and basketball, and many of the gang members, just perhaps how I treated them, even though they weren't the gang that was in my neighborhood, they knew because I played basketball in many other neighborhoods and befriended them, and they just wouldn't trouble me. I was just probably one of the very few that was never ever gang beaten or jumped. I could walk to school in another neighborhood and they'd let me come home. My friends couldn't. And at some point, I began to realize that, again, this was very painful. My prayer and praying started as a result of that atmosphere that I told you about. Because I saw 50 people beat one brother up and stomp him almost through the ground. Stabbings and shootings. And so I prayed my way to navigate to get back home alive. So I became very prayerful. Strangely enough, my mother would be saying, you have to pray. And she would say that because many times I was curious about how these gangs would fight. I would hide in the bushes. Shooting might have been taking place all around me, and all of my siblings were upstairs, but I was the last one to come up, and it was repeatedly. So I was like the black sheep. I wasn't involved in the gangs, but another friend who's no longer alive, his name was Richard Massey, we were just 11-year-olds, and we just, maybe even younger, 8-year-olds, and laying down in the bushes and all this fighting. So we saw what a gang fight was really all about. Women coming out with swords, and they were part of the bloodshed and the fighting. Those prayers perhaps was my relationship with God, the Creator. My mother would always say, you need to pray because you staying in trouble. And so again, I wasn't in trouble. I was just in the streets. I didn't keep the curfew. It wasn't because I wanted to be defiant. I just forgot that I was supposed to be up at 7, because the streets for me was intriguing. It was interesting. It was I was just anxious to know what is all of this about. The drugs, seeing it and seeing people who were strong, beautiful young people bent over now, and just curious. Never got involved, but just curious, and they loved me. I was with people that sometime on the staircase, I thought it very inhumane to live in a project with 13 stories and all of us stacked up on top of one another. That created the wars and the fighting. So I was in an atmosphere where all of that took place. Drew me closer to God. I didn't know it, but that's what it was doing. By the time I hit 18, and I'm hearing Nikki Giovanni, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and seeing the contrast, listening to James Baldwin, and all of these different prominent people of the time, my mind started to open up. I went from sports and liking sports to being interested in the issues. And all of these things, the last poets, they were shaping my mind, listening to them. And one Sunday, having been brought up in Mount Olive Baptist Church on Eastern Parkway, St. Mark's, I was in the church, probably even thinking about maybe getting more involved in the church. So my parents were, as I said, trying to direct us, doing the best that they could to give me the foundation that they felt would have me not only fit in American society, but stay out of trouble, stay out of jail. Most of my friends either went to Vietnam and died. If they didn't go to Vietnam, they started out with a wine, and they went from wine to marijuana, from marijuana to heroin, from heroin to methadone to crack. So I saw my neighborhood die in front of my eyes. I was never able to go into the war because I got into Morgan State College with a basketball scholarship, and that allowed me to not go to Vietnam. I met people in school who, they were in school trying to beat Vietnam also. And then we started listening to Malcolm X because he got a status called conscientious objector, which allowed me to know that you could get out of the war like Muhammad Ali. Later, he came and visited my school. That began to open my mind up in my thinking. This particular Sunday was Father's Day. I'll never forget it. Changed my whole life. Reverend Brown had a sermon that he taught. I was listening to it in the balcony. And then he made a statement after having a collection plate go around. He was irate because the money was not enough. It might have been $500 and something, and the deacon that told him the amount, he made this statement. He said, look, he said, I'm going to send this plate around again. And I hope that I'm happy the next time deacon counts the money. He said, I want church, y'all listen. He said, today is my day. Forget about God. It's Father's Day, it's my day. Forget about God. I got up, I walked out, and I went home. My mother was sitting in the choir. She saw me leave. I was the only one in the church. I left with my girlfriend, grabbed her hand. We walked out. I went home. My siblings were there, and I told them, I said, I'm never going back to that church again. They said, you going to tell Mama when she come in? I said, definitely. Everybody waited because they wanted to see how this was going to play out. So she walked in, and she knew I was upset. As I said, she saw me leave. I'm about 18 years of age, 17. She said, Reverend Brown was wrong. He should have never said that, and what have you. I said, yes. And she said, I said, Mom, I'm not going back to that church anymore. My mother had a position where most of us, our parents could not give us our spirituality. So my mother said, look, when you all get 18, you could choose whatever you want to do. But for now, you're going to Mount Island Baptist Church. That particular day, I knew I was never going back. I told my mother, I'm not going back. She said, you got to find God. I said, yes, I'll go looking for him, but I know he's not in there. So ain't no sense me going back there because God ain't in there. And I said, I'm not giving up on God. I'm going to go looking, and that started my searching. Because Malcolm was causing me to think, yet that time the Nation of Islam was extremely powerful in the 60s. Many brothers were wearing the bow ties, the pies were selling, the fish from Peru, I believe. They just had Muhammad Speaks everywhere. It was just something that was attractive to many people. I began to ask them questions like, so what does Allah mean? I don't know. Come to the mosque, they'll teach you. What does Salam Alaikum mean? What language is that? So come to the mosque, they'll teach you. You go to the mosque. Can't you explain? How can you join something and you can't explain it? You can't tell me, but yet you're telling me to come there. I went to 116th Street, bought a book called The Teachings of Islam. Started to read it. I was on my job reading it, and a Hebrew brother saw me reading it. What are you looking for? Opened up a conversation, looking for the truth. Which truth? There are many truths. Never heard that before. That was even more puzzling than where I was already at. Many truths. Which one? I don't know which one. So then he started to ask me questions. He said, brother, let me ask you, are you looking for God? Absolutely, that's what I'm looking for. Which one? Here we back in confusion based again. What do you mean, which one? He said, you could see the perplexity on my face that I really was confused with these questions. I was already confused, and his questions made it even more confusing. Which one? Then he asked me another question. He said, look, he said, maybe I can help you. Tell me your nationality, because everyone gets their God and culture through their nationality. What's your nationality? I'm a senior in college, City College, about to graduate with a history degree. I can't answer this basic question of who I am. What do you mean nationality? I didn't even know we had one, because that was not a word that black people use. They would ask you, what's your religion? They didn't ask you, what's your nationality? They would ask you, what are you? They wouldn't say, who are you? And so this was just a line of questioning that just started another level of thinking. Then he began to say, well, are you French? And I didn't study French history. I know de Charles, I know Charlemagne, I know the history of, France. Well, are you German? Oh, no, I know the history of Germany. I'm a historian. Do you think you came from Africa? Yes, I know I'm from Africa. Where? Blank again. Couldn't answer where in Africa I'm from, but the line of questioning is something that I've never heard from primary, junior high, high school, college. It never came on that level of questioning, even thinking. It opened up another level of thinking. So we began to talk. I began every day when I got on the job, I'm looking for this guy. I can ask him some more questions. 3 months or so coming into these questions, because every day I'm asking questions and he's willing to answer. First time I had someone like that was willing to answer any question. My mother was never able to do it. My mother had 7th grade education. My father had 2nd grade education. They couldn't answer nothing. They sent us to school to educate them. All right, we taught my father how to write. He used to put an X for his name. We had to teach him how to, so we got into high school and college and stuff. We started working with them. And so again, this man, I'm curious every day. Next question, because every question led to another question. And so it just became a place where now he told me, you're a Hebrew Israelite. I was headed at that time to study Swahili at a place called the East on Claver Place in Brooklyn. He told me that Swahili was a combination of Arabic and Bantu. I was at 138th Street and Convent Avenue, and I was right near, and I stayed in what you call the Schomburg Library. So I looked it up, found out that Swahili is a combination of Bantu and Arabic. It's not a pure language. All of the people on the east coast of Africa speak Swahili. He said, you're a Hebrew. We have Hebrew class on Tuesday. I was headed to the Swahili class the same Tuesday. My brother was driving me because he was into the East Pan-Africanist movement under this guy called Ron Karanga. I would have probably been in that movement if I had not went to that Tuesday Hebrew class. So I told my brother, I said, wait here, I'll be out in about 15 minutes. Let me just go in and see what's happening, pay my respects. Maybe I'll go later to the Hebrew class. We'll go to Swahili. They were doing the Aleph Beit on the board, Aleph Beit, Gamel, Dalet, Hey. I walk in and they said, sit down, brother, and we doing it. And they did the first row, 3 seconds probably. I didn't memorize Aleph Beit, Gamel, Dalet, Hey. I knew that, so can we go to the next one? They said, no, these students, we still practicing this. So finally, she realized I was moving faster. I got down, I knew Tao, because she said, well, you do it now by yourself. They're sitting there, and I could go from Aleph to Tao probably in 15 minutes. I went to the door and I told my brother, I said, look, I'll be there next week to that Swahili class. He's still waiting for me to get to the Swahili class. This is 48 years later. So again, that started Hebrew. I found out they said nobody's never come in and learned this that quick. And even my teacher, Cohane Levy, said, you sending him to the next class already? I said, Cohane, I test him. I point any letter. He knows it. And that's how it started. I just ate it up. everything. I had already been in classes studying was nothing. So I never started this way on Shabbat. I started in Hebrew class. And Hebrew was just natural to me, just understood it naturally. As they taught it, it just made so much sense, the logic and the sounds and everything. Then I didn't trust them because I know black people play a lot of games. So I wanted to take it in college. So I signed up for Hebrew at City College. I was the first black person to ever take it. When I walked into the class, they started laughing at me, the Jews in the class. Hey, buddy, this is not algebra. This ain't black studies. They started that fire burning in me because, I mean, I had already now been in the temple like 6 months, and I knew they were not the people. I couldn't wait for this Hebrew class to start because I had been studying all along. But they're making these jokes, so I just sat down. They still thinking that I'm not in the Hebrew class. I'm the only black person sitting in this room. The teacher walks in. His eyes peer right on me as soon as he hits the door. And he says, is everybody here for Hebrew while he's going to his death? And I said, Cain. Now he really sticks up because I answered him in Hebrew. And then he started going down the names, the roll call, and got to me because all them Jews I found out, even though they were Russians and Germans and other countries in Europe were converted, they really had Hebrew names as a religious name. So he said, what's your Jewish name? I said, no, my Hebrew, I don't have a Jewish name. It's Michael, because I wasn't even a Cohane yet. And then they started giving their names and they opened up my eyes to them. And then we started classes, speaking on the language and reading. And I could read very well. And the children would say, your dialect is better than the teachers. We love it because they would say, Mashalom Ka. And I would say, Mashalom Ka. And they could hear it clearly. And they knew that I spoke clear Hebrew that they could pick up. And because I had to develop the ear because I didn't understand them in this class when I first got in there. That's what developed my ear for listening to anybody to speak Hebrew because I had to be challenged in this class to be able to pass this course. So one day I remember particularly we were reading a chapter and it said, Uri Yesh Yamaka al Rosho, which means he had a, Yarmulke was a Jewish word for hat. So when everyone read it, it said Yarmulke, I said, Uri Yesh Kippah al Rosho. He said, no, don't say that. He said, read what's in the book. I said, sorry. I read it again. I said, Uri Yesh Kippah al Rosho. He said, if you say that again, I'm going to fail you. I said, wait a minute. I said, I signed up for Hebrew. This word is a Yiddish word. I'm not taking Yiddish, and I'm not going to study Yiddish. I came here, and if you take me to the department, I'm going to let them know that I signed up for Hebrew, and you're teaching me Yiddish. He said, okay, read Kippah. So every time we had a Yiddish word, they knew I'm not going to read it. And then it got stronger. So I ended up, to make a long story short, I had the last laugh because they realized they were embarrassed after a while as we started getting stronger. And the thing I learned also is that I had taken Spanish, I had taken Russian, and you get 3 credits for Russian. You get 3 credits for Spanish. I wanted to graduate with my transcript saying I took Hebrew as my language. So I make sure I took Hebrew 1 and 2. I got 10 credits for just taking 2 courses of Hebrew. Because the Jews get 5 credits. So I found out how they have a discrepancy in what you take and how they'll get ahead with all these classes and what have you. Just was another eye-opener. So again, that journey of going to Hashabah Yisrael, 539 Belmont Avenue, meeting Cohen Levy and that community, they developed me because I went to history class, I wouldn't miss none. Went to Hebrew class, wouldn't me and just Morey Mishael, the Hebrew teacher, we'd be the only ones there. And we had Nasi Barak, others. I just ate all their knowledge. I mean, every child, if they knew how to say Ritzpah, I'd call the baby over, because that was another thing. I was the first college graduate, college student ever come into the community. But I came in there as though I was in kindergarten, because I knew that I didn't know nothing. If you were there 2 years, a year, I was just beginning. And my college education meant nothing. I wanted to know my heritage, and you know it, you know this knowledge. So that humility allowed me to absorb all of their minds. My teacher, Cohane Levi, I was there 3 months. When I learned something, the first Shabbat, whatever I heard, I went to my job and I was bringing the people on the job to the building, because he said, you have a photostatic memory. I remember he told me, he said, it's like whatever you hear, you just get it, and that's how it was for me. Whatever I heard, I didn't have to study it again. I knew the precepts, I knew how to explain it, because I saw how he broke it down, and I knew how to break it down just like him. And so again, I started with the Hebrew, studying. I would study on the A train, the language, so I'm studying day and night. I'd be up in the middle of the night, everything that I'm studying. So just, and if I studied American history, studied the English language and their stuff, now this is mine, no, to this day. I took a course in City College called Individual Personal Research. I'm still not a teacher, I'm a student, and I'm a lifetime independent researcher. That's what I do. I seek knowledge on everybody on the planet, every culture. You gotta turn over every leaf. Not only did I wanna know who I am, I wanna know who I'm not. Because that's how you'll know who you are. When you can know that you're not Chinese and know Chinese history and know the history of all the people, that's how I study. That's my understanding of studying the world and studying, and that's who I am today. I was 3 months in that way. My teacher, Cohane Levi, said to me, he said, I don't know you. One day on a Shabbat after, he said, I don't know you, brother. You've only been here for 3 months. But I have to tell you, God told me to make you a priest, a Cohen. I was in there, I saw every job. Nasi Barak, beautiful brother, Hebrew language, scholar in the Tanakh, but he wasn't a priest. I wanted to do every job, but be a Cohen. The Creator knew as I was sitting there studying and doing all that, I'm looking at all these people and I'm looking at this man. I'll do anything in here but his job. I don't want to be teaching my people, get him in the face. Right. And I'd rather go out, I told him, I said, let me go out and bring him to you, because they call it a fisher and a hunter. Anybody I spoke to, college, and brought them out the classrooms, I could get them to understand it. That's what I wanted to do. And he told me this, he said, look, God, Yehovah don't want you to go out. He said, this room, the congregation, is going to be the pond or the ocean. You're going to fish them out their seats. You don't got to go get them no more. Then I said, hey, all right. That makes sense. So he's going to bring the people to me, and that's when I understood it, and I was willing, and we went into private studies. And he started giving me all the inside information of Torah, Tanakh, and he knew that I had the study skills, and he just said, now you go and you take all of this, and that's what I did. So I've been studying ever since. And now he told me, he said, you're going to have an adventurous life. That was an understatement. At one time, I was on 5 continents in 1 month. So I travel worldwide now. I've been in all universities around the world, speaking, lecturing, and I just want to wake up the planet, and in particular our people. But our mission, and I want to say this, on behalf of myself, on behalf of my people, I apologize to the whole planet for not doing what I'm doing now. And that is being a light to the nations. This planet is in need of truth. And had we given it the truth of the maker of heaven and earth, we would have all these gods, all these religions, and we'd have a common human and humanity bond. That's our mission now, is to bring this truth to the planet Earth. It's in great need of truth, and that's where I am today. You asked me to tell about my life.
Well, and
I
you
hope that's
you definitely did, and that was an amazing story. Tell you what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna pause this. I want to do some sections, so we'll be able to break
if I
it.
can clear my head and